Hi, Night Rider. Welcome back
What is
to
up?
welcome back to Real Amigos. Jeremy Knight with my good man Ian of Austin. Good to see y'all. Ian, how's it going, man?
Man, it is crazy. There's a lot happening out in this world of real estate, huh?
You're telling me, man. It has been. We had Thanksgiving last week, so we
Yep.
didn't get to have Real Amigos, and I think before
Right.
that, you and I both were traveling. I think I was in Dallas doing a talk. You were in San Antonio, so we didn't do Real Amigos.
Houston.
Houston, there you go.
It's
So
not better.
what? Not yeah, definitely not. San Antonio, I think would have been better. But good to see you, man.
Me too. Looks like I'm breaking up again. What the heck, man, is with this internet?
You don't look
Anyway, I'm
bad
starting over.
on this side, but I do realize that excuses don't sell homes. So
There we go. How's this?
yeah,
Better?
that was better before.
Ah. You can discover the fibers. I've had fiber this whole time. It's frustrating that I'm having these issues. I call out somebody and listen, I'm not judging. I'm judging a little bit. This woman that's like, I don't know. She looks like she's 16 years old, comes and starts telling me about my router might not be plugged in. I'm like, okay. Anyway.
Yeah, you definitely look like somebody who doesn't know how to plug in a router.
Right.
But all right, so look, we got a lot to get to today. I mean, we got the FHFA announces new conforming loan limits. FHFA gave out their Q3 numbers. We have a video here from, who is it? Not Ivy. I keep saying Ivy. It is Ivy.
You said that, and I was like, no, I don't think that's the person.
What's her name? Yeah, Ivy Zelman. I said Levine. I don't know why I said Levine.
There you go.
Ivy Zelman, who predicted the 2008 crash. She had some interesting insights on the market coming up and what we were seeing. And so we'll kind of, talk about what she said. What she said, that is what she said. So we'll talk about that. Ian, how do I, what was it again where I allow the audio to come through? I forgot.
Your audio is sounding great, but it should be a checkbox when you share the window.
When I share the window. Okay, perfect. All right.
Yeah, when you present.
So we'll go over those and then kind of talk about what's happening in the Austin market. I mean, overall, we're busy. We had a client. I'm not even kidding. This is wild. So I want to say the price was around 550 in North. No, I don't want to say what neighborhood, but in a North neighborhood with a builder. We got them in total $70,000+ off, and with incentives, and we got them where they are paying title, which is crazy because most builders don't want to pay the title policy, which adds like $4,000 to $5,000 depending on the price point. So they even threw that in, and it was pretty awesome. We got buyers coming in this weekend. I got a couple buyers and then a few million price point coming in. One we've been showing. I have a couple buyers that we're writing offers on. I got 7 listings just getting toured like open houses every day. So, I mean, this market's definitely, as I predicted, I guess, busy this time of year. What do you think?
I think it's a little busier than everyone anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what happens is you have people that paid attention during 2008, pay attention to what happened during 2008. And the narrative was always, if somebody's got to scoop up those properties. And if you're the person with the money while this conversation's happening, while there's fear in the air, and you're able to scoop those up, then you can win.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, not to keep going into the 2008 stuff. We'll talk about what Ivy Zelman said, but she has had some comparisons for 2008 as well. There's just a lot of variables that are different right now. So we'll get into that, but let's get into this first, which is the FHFA and the new lending rules. And then we'll get into
loan limits.
What was that?
The conforming loan limits.
Yeah, the conforming loan limits. So they raised the conforming loan limits from it was like 726 to, so they raised it $40,000 to 766. So what that means, if you're like putting 3.5% down, you could buy a house for 806,000 with 3% down. If I did that math right, and get a $766,000 home. So you want to explain what that means, Ian?
Well, you can get an $800,000 home where before you could only have been putting in offers on a $750-ish thousand home. So it's increasing your borrowing amount by about 40,000. Now, obviously, you borrow more, you pay more monthly, but it's increasing the opportunity for you to get a loan without going into the jumbo loan category.
Aaron says that's insane. It's like buying a full shed in San Francisco. Well, San Francisco is a little bit different because here, those areas do actually get more. Like it's up. It was like, yeah, here we go. The new ceiling.
San Fran was 1.4.
Yeah, 1.149. So some areas you actually get a little bit more. So so what's interesting about this, if not too long ago, the conforming loan limit was like 500,000.
Oh, I know.
Prices went up. And so basically what that means for you, if you don't know, so when we have loans that have to conform to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which are government backed loans, there's limits to what they can do. So there's more overlays, more overriding. So it takes a little bit more to get a conforming loan. So like a conventional loan would be a conforming loan. FHA would be a conforming loan, right? So they have to fit certain guidelines, and there's a limit and a ceiling to how much you can actually borrow for those without it being a jumbo loan. And so this is where things are different. So a jumbo loan, I know I on one of my homes, I recently I bought, and I was going to have to get a jumbo loan. Unless I put an additional $20,000 down, which jumbo loans typically are a higher interest rate. So for the same, whatever it says, houses increased. But for whatever the price is, right? Let's say interest rates right now are at 7.13, which they're down, right? So let's say that's the median price for loans right now. To get a jumbo would be a lot higher. So to get a conforming loan, I mean, that just shows you what prices have done. And we'll talk about prices in a second. So any other thoughts on that, Ian?
Yeah, I think, well, I kind of want to jump on this bandwagon that Aaron put right there, saying that if you can't put 3.5 down, well, so these conforming loan limits can go as low as 3% down. So you can get a 3% conventional loan, put 3% down, and borrow $700 and almost $60,000 is what they're saying. So, yeah, it's definitely something. And I do agree with Aaron. You always want to have a little bit of padding when you're putting some money into a home. If it's your first home, for sure. So keep that in mind. But as far as the limits, I think the question is always, who is purchasing these homes if the median income of the area isn't keeping up with that? Like why or how does it impact Austin today and tomorrow? Who are the people that are looking for these right now?
Well, I mean, look, I get what Aaron's saying here, but let's go back to 2019, 2017, 2018, and we'll look at some of these. I had a client that purchased a home, or I guess more Eileen, my wife, had a client that purchased a home back in 2017 with, I think, 3 or 3.5% down FHA. And then we turned around and sold that this year. They bought a new home, and they made on that home probably $250,000 this year, even when the market wasn't as high as it was in 2022. So they still made like $250,000, put half of that down on a new home. And so, yeah, I could see where, you say, hey, look, 3.5%, you shouldn't be doing that. If you can afford the loan at 3.5% down, then, maybe some people want to hold that money and invest in the stock market or invest in other things. So I could see why people would want to do 3.5 down, 5% down, or as little as possible, so they have money they can use for other things. So, not everybody's in that same boat. I would just say, I would make sure if you're buying a home, 3.5%, 5%, 10%, 20%, whatever the percent is, you can actually make that mortgage payment. Still there? Did you leave? Hello? Are you there, Ian?
Yeah. No, I'm here.
Okay. So
Yeah,
Neil
you can hear me? I'm
Patel
here.
says PMI would be
Okay.
insane for that. They actually reduced PMI recently, so it's like a 0.5% down. So I don't think PMI would be that much. I mean, it would definitely add to it for sure, but the numbers for PMI are
Well,
down.
PMI, you have PMI, you obviously have your interest rate today, and you have the taxable burden, which I know has been decreased. So PMI has been decreased a little bit. Tax homestead has been amplified a little bit. And so as interest rates drop, we should be in a pretty good spot as we're moving forward here. Start getting into better spots
And
for
I need to do
affordability for people.
I need to do a video on the
If the
tax.
competition stays low.
Yeah, I need to do the video on the taxes and how that changed because, I did a video talking about how the new tax bill before it came out. I said that this wasn't really going to add much. To my chagrin, a property that I was paying $7,900 in taxes on is one of my investment properties, and based on everything, I'm like, God, this thing's going to go up to $9,500. Actually went down $200 this year with that new tax savings plan. So to my surprise,
Beautiful.
it went down. We'll see what my personal home
Beautiful.
comes out because it's definitely not gonna. I mean, it's still gonna be high, but okay.
That's good.
So you want to move forward and talk about the Federal Housing Finance Agency puts out their what is this called? HPI. It's not HPI. What is it called? Anyway, it's their. All right, here. Let me just pull it on the screen. Give me 1 second. It's been a long week already. I got a busy week
I
going,
believe
so I'm
it.
doing
Me too.
I'm doing a YouTube thing tomorrow. I'm meeting with a couple agents about coming to Real Broker tomorrow, and then on Friday, I'm doing like a 2-hour class on video for some lender wanted me to come do some thing, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'll come. And then he's like, oh, by the way, it's 2 hours long. I'm like, wait, you want me to talk for 2 hours, bro? You better pay me. Like, are you serious? All right, full screen. Here we go.
I had the same thing. I've got a couple Real Broker meetings, and then I had a guy today that we're putting in an offer on 80 acres.
Nice.
He already bought 250, and he's trying to buy 80 more. 2
Where's
hours
that at?
west of here.
Where?
I can't disclose.
You said 2
But it's
hours.
good. I'll send it. Yeah, I'll send it to you after.
All right. But I'm just saying, how far from town was it? From Austin?
Oh, 2 hours from Austin. It's 2 hour
hours.
drive from here.
Nice. Okay. So the house prices rose in the third quarter for FHFA's HPI. So they rose 5.5% between 2022 and 2023. Home prices were up 2.1% compared to the second quarter of 2023. So definitely we saw an increase still year over year. And we're going to talk about in a second, we're going to talk about the Fannie Mae's economic developments for next year and their insights for 2024. But this went up 2.1%. And then from September to August, or from August to September, it was up 0.6%. But here's what's interesting. So home prices rose in 93 of the top 100 largest areas over the last 4 quarters. The annual price increase was the greatest in Albany, the metropolitan area that saw the most significant price decline was Austin Round Rock, down 5%. Yet Austin is down barely 1%. What are your thoughts on this?
So it's interesting because I was listening to who is this? The Texas Tribune, and they had a whole economic conversation about how fast we're growing and how much we have to be ready for the growth because of what's happening in Austin. From when they say Austin, from Georgetown down to San Antonio, we're just poised for so darn much growth, which means houses being purchased. So where they're getting these numbers, I don't know.
I think we're going to, so to answer, to rebuttal Aaron's comment here, I mean, we're having a lot of clients buy in like last year, all my clients were like $1 million to $2 million. Like all of our clients were $1 million to $2 million. Right now, the people that have been the most successful this year are all of our buyers between 400,000 and 600,000. So Absolutely. That's, I mean, if you look, that is kind of in line with the median and where prices are, right? 550 is the median or whatever.
We're
I
under.
didn't pull up the Austin numbers because I just did a video on it last week, but that's still like we like right now we have clients under contract at like 450, 430. We just closed one at 640. We have clients coming in this town looking in the 900 price point. But I mean, a lot of our clients that are finding success have been FHA buyers, that have been VA buyers. So are you seeing the same thing though?
Oh, absolutely. FHA conventional is hot right now. VA is still doing well. And the price range, you're spot on. I've got, in the 7s, I've got in the 4s and in the 2s, all of them are moving. But as you go higher, as you go above 7, it seems to be going a little slow.
All right. How do I get this where it will allow me to share her volume?
When you shared, there should be a checkbox. There should have been a checkbox for it.
Try it again.
For volume.
All right, let me try it again. Also shared tab audio. Yes. Yep. Perfect. All right, let's see if this. So this is Ivy Zelman. Here's what she had to say. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up now is because you talked about inventory kind of a second ago. So let's see what Ivy Zelman had to say here. And let me know if this audio doesn't come through.
You're muted on the screen, I think. The video itself is muted, looks like.
No, it's coming through.
Oh, I'm not hearing it. It's too low. There you go.
Numbers, listening to Diana, there are a lot of cross currents because rates are definitely higher. But her point was that some of the new home builders seem less sensitive than they're still building what because the supply issue is still with us. So they can still do this and expect to sell things at these rates. They're not being hurt by them.
Well, I mean, overall, the builders have had more resilient sales. And I think part of that is also they're really offering great value to the consumer by giving mortgage rate buy downs. And that's enabling the buyer to have less stress on affordability. So they're buying rates down as much as 2 points. And that's obviously pretty helpful. They're offering incentives and they've got product. And while they're providing that incentive and that could impact margins, they have product where incremental demand, there's not a lot of existing inventory.
We've seen rates come down. When do we see, is that going to be enough to get?
So pretty interesting. And I mean, you and I are seeing the same thing in the market right now. I've made several videos talking about how builders are incentivizing. Plus, like one of our clients right now got 6% towards closing costs and all that stuff.
Yeah, I've got some buyers right now that are I don't understand why they're on the fence because the builders are bending over backwards. The timing is good. One of the partner is, pregnant, due it January 1st or something like that. And they need to pull the trigger and they're still not ready. And I don't understand why when this is exactly what would be perfect for them. Because after that, once they have the baby, it's going to be a minute before they make another decision to move. And the builders, again, bending over and giving them everything, covering so much, giving them some great value. Beautiful house.
Let me ask you for this particular buyer you're speaking with about, is it that they're worried about the market? Is that what is their concern with buying right now? Because I think people in the comments will probably agree.
Yeah, I think the biggest part about it is it's still the consideration of interest rates dropping lower and them waiting until I think it was May or June was their magic date that they would rather be in. They think that it's going to be better for them at that time.
Well, then you should have them watch the Ivy Zelman, and then we'll bring up in a second, this article and have them read this, which is the economic survey for next year, which basically says, that what they're saying is that prices and everything are going to bottom out at the beginning of the year. So buying right now, at the end of the year, if you get a lot of incentives with the builder, might not be a bad way to go. But
and that's kind of interesting what Neil is saying, and it falls in line with this conversation. He's talking about, are there a lot of bidding wars like there was close to COVID? And I will say what I've personally seen is it's not necessarily a war, but there's these little mini bidding battles where you have people that are relaxed on making offers, which I understand. They're a little more relaxed and builders seem like they're giving the world. But then the next thing you know, the next day or the day after, someone's come in and already put an offer in on that house because it was such a good deal. So I am seeing that a lot, but it's not really as combative. And I mean, it's not near as combative as it was in 2021. We're not doing lotteries.
Yeah. I mean, look, so we had clients that were looking at a new construction last week. This is the same one that just went under contract and got a crazy good deal, but they were looking at a property last week and I wouldn't say drug their foot, but they were being very analytical about the property. They wanted to look at a lot of things and, they were taking their time, I guess. Well, in that, so that we showed them the property. I think it was like Saturday. And then Eileen had got all the information from the builder, got all the incentives. We actually were able to get a couple more incentives thrown in. Here's the thing is people go into the builder like, oh, I'm going to save money because I'm going to save money from not having to have a realtor fee. Eileen got them even better than what they would have gotten on this deal and the deal they did here. So you're not going to get any better, trust me. And you actually are going to put yourself. Trey Serrano put out a video today about all of the bad things that Perry Homes did to a client. So that would be a good one to watch.
Perry, huh?
Video. Perry Homes. Yeah, I've had a lot of issues with Perry myself, and yeah. But anyway, yeah. But the house went under contract Monday at noon. So Eileen called the builder back, was like, okay, my client's ready to move forward. And they're like, oh, this is already under contract. So that to say is if you find a deal and you can run the numbers and it looks good, it's still one of those markets that you got to pull the trigger on. We have another client that they've been wanting to buy kind of more of a fixer upper. And so there's 3 properties that they liked. We wrote an offer on one, but they way lowballed and way asked for a lot of stuff. The seller said no, under contract with somebody else. The other house that they liked, under contract because they took 4 or 5 days to negotiate. One day the lender didn't answer the phone and that one went under contract. So houses are still moving, but not moving where you're seeing 30, 40, 50 grand over list price. You are still getting some deals is what I've been seeing. I mean, are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, still getting deals, still getting offers moving. Now this is always going to go back to are you pricing them well? Like I've got one listing that I put on and I mean, it is not priced where it should be. However, when you walk inside, it looks like it's straight out of, what was that show? Miami Vice. Though everything in the home is porcelain. It's gorgeous. It is a gorgeous home on the inside. The problem is it's in a neighborhood that supports like 100,000 less. It doesn't hit that number.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I've seen that too, where
it's rough.
A house in my neighborhood that's listed 100 grand less than what we purchased ours a year ago is on the market and is not moving yet. I mean, it's an okay house. I don't think they picked the best upgrades, but let's get to the rest of this article or what Ivy said, because what she says next, I think is really, really important. And I want to move on to the housing stuff. And then we can talk more about clients and what's happening. Oh, hold on. Oh, and by the way, I had this sped up a little bit. So if you can't hear this, Ian, just make sure you let me know because I turned my volume down a little bit.
I can't anymore.
You can't hear it? You can't hear it?
Well, it's not playing right now, but I can't.
Oh, okay.
Home sales are right now probably at the lowest since the GFC. If you look at 4 million roughly existing home sales.
I'm gonna back it up just a little bit. Sorry.
The lowest since the GFC.
To get existing sales going again, will people feel better about it?
All right, let me go back up just so you can hear his question.
We've seen rates come down. When do we see? Is that going to be enough to get existing sales going again? Will people feel better about it? Has there been a lull because of the rise in rates at this point?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, existing home sales are right now probably at the lowest since the GFC. If you look at 4 million roughly existing home sales as a percent of households, it's kind of 3%.
Financial crisis.
Sorry, yeah, at the GFC. Sorry, but I would say that rates today, the average homeowner is more than 80% or below 5%. You've got almost half below 50%. So when you start looking at that, we need a lot further decline in rates to reignite the existing home market. So I think
nobody wants to vote. That's why there's
and
mortgage below 3 or 4%.
Right.
So this isn't going to work itself.
So she said 80% of homeowners have a mortgage under 5%, 50% have a mortgage under 4%. So this is a reason why some homeowners are moving. What?
Think about how good that is, though. If right now 80% of homeowners have a mortgage under 5%, and there are some builders that are out there that will actually buy your rate down to 5%. So you could
Yeah.
be at that 80% of the population of homeowners number today, right now, if you're in the market, of course.
Right. Right. And that's why earlier they were talking about home builders having success. So
Yeah, we're looking at flat. I think the new home market just down slightly, but with respect to kind of what unsticks the market, I don't know. I think you've got the risk of distress. Looking out further, you kind of look at the aging population that would help move some people out. Vacancies would rise.
2026 or no, 24.
By 2030,
24 to 25. It's much better than 25. And you already in your business, you have to be able to make determinations about something that far off.
Well, we try.
Yeah, and much better for 2025. A rebound.
Well, 25, we're looking for a reacceleration off a very low base for existing home sales, only up 7%, but it still would be on a relative basis extremely depressed levels.
So when does the shortage of just new homes or even existing homes, how does that finally resolve? What year?
Well, I mean, the problem is that land prices have been accelerating. There's been no let up in land. Inflation continues to rise. So with respect to affordability and providing more affordable housing, that really without any government support, developers just can't pencil returns to provide enough housing that's needed. The multifamily market right now is seeing deceleration in rents because of so much supply that's coming to market. And that's will provide consumers.
That's something you asked me for. You wanted to know if we had the figures on
Yeah, on multifamily. How are the numbers there?
Oh, I didn't know.
isn't that crazy? Isn't that, I mean, there's a lot to unpack in that. I mean, because she's talking about multifamily as well.
Yeah.
The biggest problem in Austin is you and I have talked about is that a lot of these developers are paying a crap ton for this land. There's a lot next to me. It's 31 acres and they want 4.9 million for it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And some of it you can't even build on. So it's it definitely interesting times for that. And then she was saying 2024, it's going to be flat. That's exactly, and we can get to the Fannie Mae stat here in a second. That's exactly what Fannie Mae said. So sales like this year right now, we're only going to be at like 4 million sales, which is down, I think 1.6, 1.7 million sales from the peak last year. So think about that. That's a lot lower sales, but we're still, because people aren't moving overall, not Austin, but overall, because people aren't moving, prices aren't moving down. So if you're out there looking at this going, man, prices aren't moving down, what she just said is you're going to have older people finally sell their homes to get more inventory, and builders are going to have to keep building. She even said builder sales are going to be flat. So this is all, I think this is a powder keg, in my opinion, that once rates do drop far enough, you're going to have so much built up demand, but you're also going to have more inventory as a side product. Because if you think about it, if you have one of those people that's just waiting for rates to drop to 5% before they buy their next home, guess what? Their home goes on the market. So now you have home on the market and they're buying a home. So you have inventory for someone else, and then this person's buying inventory. So there is a 1-for-1 inventory there. So it's not just renters purchasing. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on what Ivy said and my rant?
Yeah. Well, there are a couple things in there. One, I wanted to just do the math on that. The acres, you're talking like $125,000 an acre next to you, which is that's crazy. That's crazy. That that land I'm putting out the offer on is $4,000 an acre. It's just like, and obviously it's not near the city, but wow, just it's incredible. So I think if we look at historical trends, and I wish I had these charts up right now, but the historical trend, every election cycle, it dips anyway. So to say 2024 is going to be flat, or even if it dipped a little bit, that wouldn't have surprised me. I've been saying that for the last year.
Yeah.
Right. So we knew that. As far as multifamily, I'm curious about that because I'm actually hearing a lot more conversations about multifamily, specifically because of the tax advantages of it. I think more people are discovering the beauty of being able to leverage multifamily. And
Well,
so
I
at
think
least
what you're
that's the conversations that I'm in more often now.
right. So I think what she's speaking about multifamily, when you and I talk about multifamily, we talk about 4 to 8 units, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Or 2 to 4 to
Well,
8 units. What she's talking about multifamily is more of like commercial. So putting in a 160 unit complex.
yeah, I'm
That
talking
type
about
of commercial.
syndication too, like
Okay.
larger
So
complexes. Yeah.
right. So, and what she said earlier in that is that builders are having a hard time buying that land because it's so expensive. And then on top of that, you have developers who are not developers, but the city that takes forever to drag their feet and it end up costing the developer more, which they end up pass that on to the buyer. There's in Buda, and I can bring up the article later, but there's a tract of land that has been for 5 years held up by the city of Buda that has been owned. I want to say it was by Milestone it was by, I think it was owned by Milestone. And they finally got the green light to move forward, but that's just the green light to the next green light. That's not even the green light to put shovels in the ground. So interesting that, and what she's saying about the develop, like we have a lot of multifamily coming on the market now, but I think going forward, we're probably going to have, like, you're going to just see a peak and then a valley in Austin, maybe not other places, where you see a peak and a valley where in the future out, 4 or 5 years, things have gotten so expensive that you don't see as many multifamily coming online. I mean, do you think I'm wrong?
So here's what I want to know: what the correlation is with the way the money moves between real estate and the stock market. When people started pulling out of the stock market, they were buying more real estate, right? And so if that comes back around, which obviously it's about to, a lot of these companies, I mean, Tesla, they were going live. They're announcing their Cybertruck information tomorrow. Grok is going live. Just a lot of things are happening in that space. And so I'm interested to see, if you look at the performance, the stock performance of a lot of these companies, are actually doing well. Meta, even though they laid some people off in Austin and in California, their stock is performing well. And so a lot of people like to be able to put money into the stock market or have traditional.
That's why their stock is doing better. I mean,
yeah,
they laid people off. When you lay people off, your stock actually does better.
Yeah. Well,
so,
but I'm also talking about people wanting to invest because they see these positive returns.
mhm.
And so if you're looking at buying a house, and obviously we're realtors, so we're gonna opt for the stability of the housing market in most cases. But there's also, some people just want to play with the stock market and put more money into that because they see a higher rate of return, or they just believe in it more, or they understand it better. And so I feel like as people are moving that direction, multifamily will become more available because it seems to be almost the same target audience.
I don't think you're not going to have, but buying multifamily, you're not going to have the regular mom and pop like you and I buying
No.
multifamily. I'll try.
In a syndication, you will.
Right.
Because to buy into a syndication, it's not.
So if people in here don't understand what syndication is, why don't you explain, if you can, what syndication is?
Just think of it as a group purchase, like a crowdfunding purchase of an apartment complex.
Yeah,
but we're talking hundreds of units at once. And then there's generally some kind of manager that, they have a portfolio, they have experience, and obviously you're researching this, and they'll tell you exactly how much their track record has provided them on return. There's going to be a minimum submission amount, minimum criteria for you to contribute to this syndication. So they might have $100,000 buy-in, but they guarantee a 10% rate of return based on their historical performance.
Yeah, I got one that just was sent to me. It was 300,000 buy-in, and it was, I want to say it was 40%. Sounds really high. I think maybe it was a 25% return, something to that effect. But that was one that was sent to me recently. And what's funny is I didn't get to it fast enough. When I responded, I was like, okay, this is something I'm interested in. They're like, oh yeah, we've already got everybody in. And like, it was like a matter of, like, I was told at noon, and then by 9 a.m. the next morning, they already had everybody they needed.
Well, there's a couple things. Now you're playing with bigger money. Instead of $1/10,000, you're talking more than $250,000.
Yeah.
And the rate of return is absurdly high, right?
Yeah.
So that means there's probably less people in that syndication to begin with. So yeah, I could see them having maybe 10 slots open and jump into it. Yeah.
All right, let's finish up with Ivy and see what else she says here, and then we'll move on.
We were looking for a pretty steep decline over 30% because right now developers with the cost of debt, it just doesn't pencil for them to start multifamily construction. And that eventually there's 1 million units that are in backlog, which is actually the highest since the 1970s. So about over the next 2 years, as those units complete and come to market, it's going to continue to put pressure on lease rates, which ultimately with starts plummeting, that will allow for re-acceleration in starts. But for right now, I think starts are going to remain pretty depressed in multifamily, where we think there is an oversupply.
And home improvements, crappy.
I mean, it's decelerating, it's weakening. And from what our surveys show us that we're really now below where we were in 2019. So we saw beyond normalization to pre-pandemic. And I think that, it's
to our view, buy immediately, whether it's
within housing.
Yeah.
I think it's a pretty tough time right now. I mean, we had such a boom. And if you look at where the consumer's wallet, their spending was so significant. They call it the honey to-do list, everything that we did while we were locked up in home. We're just seeing more wallet shifting to other areas, whether you talk about hospitality, travel, service. It's just not in the housing market as a priority.
Interesting. Oh, Brett's back. Yep, Brett is back. Good to see you, Brett. We haven't chatted in a while, Brett. Love to hear from you. Anyway, so yeah, I think she kind of summed up a little bit of what I said there, but there's just so much going on in the market. There's a lot to be. So what's funny is when everybody's scared, right? That's when the money is to be made. And I think I really do feel this way. In fact, I'll pull up a slide here that really articulates what I've been saying about the market. Oh, you can't really see what I'm pulling up. Let me see if I can find this. But it was showing the rates, and the rates were under 2019. And I think 2019 was a solid, not rates like interest rates, but the rate of increase in prices was still higher than 2019. Actually, let me find what I'm talking about. You talk to the audience. Let me find.
I was going to say that if you're talking about the rate of return on your investment in 2019 in the Austin area was high. There was still a lot of people moving here, and it's been one of the top growing areas in the country for the last decade. But the areas that were growing were different, and they were a little more isolated. Like Manor, I think that was the big boom for Manor was in 2017, and people just gobbled that up when Shadow Glen and those types of areas started developing. So, and I don't know why it started growing so quickly, but yeah, so, once the pandemic hit, it was just everywhere.
So here's what I wanted to show. Let me kind of zoom out just like one or two. Here we go. This is a good indication. So back in 2019, I was, I had a lot of clients that were uneasy about the market, right? So if you look, 2019, this is 4.9. So this is housing price appreciation of the previous 4 quarters. 2019 was a slow year. We're at 4.9. 2023, we're at 5.5. So even though it's a down year, people are worried, we're still seeing price appreciation around 5% compared to 2019 or 2018. I think 2018 was a really good year. 2019 was interesting because we were going into an election year. So maybe we see, and then 2020 was an election year, obviously, but we had, I think this number would not have been 8% if we did not have the pandemic, personally, but.
Agreed. Oh, no. I agree with you 100%. I think it would have been probably closer to the 6 or 5% mark.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. So I don't know if you had a chance to read this. So this is the Fannie Mae predictions, and a lot of it is really close to what she just said. So let me pull this up. I have a little cheat sheet. So basically what this is saying, the Fannie Mae Economic Development Report from November 2023 presents a detailed analysis of the U.S. economy and the housing market. Key highlights are the economy forecast. A mild recession is predicted for 2024 with a 0.4% decline in GDP followed by an expansion of 1.6% in 2025. So 2024 really is a good year. I mean, by this, it is not a bad idea to buy in a recession. So the unemployment rate is expected to peak at 5.4% in mid 2025, with core inflation moving towards the Federal Reserve's 2% target. Housing market outlook shows that home sales are projected to bottom in early 2024, influenced by the peak impact of rising mortgage rates. Total home sales are forecast to be at 4.8 million in 2023, 4.7 million in 2024. So it's saying that we're actually going to have less sales next year because of a mild recession. Now, Fannie Mae was definitely wrong this year when they made their predictions earlier in the year to now.
Well,
And so
okay.
who knows? But hold on. And 5.3. So this is huge from 2024 to 20. So this is why I'm saying like 2024 might not be a bad idea. It's saying only 4.7 million sales in 2024, but 5.3 million in 2025. So if you are going to believe that Fannie Mae is right here, mortgage originations are expected to grow from 1.5 trillion to 2.2 trillion. So this basically is just saying that we're about to see that acceleration. It's almost on par with what Ivy Zelman said.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. You have all these people that are paying attention to this because housing is a hot topic right now. It's a buzzword, right? So because they said it'll start accelerating and we're hitting the bottom at early 2024, so Q1 of 2024, you're gonna have a lot of people that are hearing that and saying, oh, let me get in and start looking at houses. And so I feel like that's just going to cause this effect where now you're actually driving up prices and competition of houses that are here for the people that think they're going to be early adopters. But generally,
and this is exactly why I'm telling clients, like, look, buying right now and closing before the end of the year and getting all these crazy deals. Yeah, interest rates are suck. Trust me, I understand they suck. This is why I'm saying people think I'm crazy. I'm just a realtor trying to sell homes, but look, I bought a home this year, right? I bought an investment home this year, paid cash for it. I'm still looking at other investments, even though the interest rates are really, really high, because if I can go to a builder right now and the builder is going to give me a ton of incentives, or look, if I go to, like, there's so much inventory in the market. If I go in and get a home that's, 550, I get it under 500. Maybe I get the seller to give me some money towards concessions. And then next year prices stay flat, but the year after that, they start to go up again. Like I bought at the bottom, and yeah, I can refinance down the road. And especially, but the challenge for an investor is if I buy a $500,000 home, am I going to rent it for $5,000 a month? A 1-1? No, I'm going to rent it for $2,500 a month. And that's where rents make it tough. So are you buying the right time? You're buying the wrong times. I feel like I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth. Scared is no word. I'm terrified.
No, it does make a lot of sense as far as you're absorbing, that you're absorbing the cost, but that's no different than what people were doing during the pandemic anyway. They were buying houses with the knowledge or hope or desire that the equity, because they're paying down the equity, they could take a little bit of a loss in the monthly payment, right? Because that's what you want. You really just want an absorption vehicle anyway, and maybe cash flow. But cash flow has been hard for a long time in Austin. And so if you buy right now and you get something that can cash flow, I don't know what you're doing. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see that happen.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's impossible. There are a few people that are able to make that happen, especially if you get some really, really, really good deals. But the idea for most people is that they're going to buy now, live in the home. And if they have, by the time they refinance, the rent should equal, the rent should catch up and they shouldn't have any issues renting it out.
Yeah. What's interesting, what's really interesting with the new tax laws that they passed, with taxes kind of coming down, like they have, so like I said, I had one investment property that dropped $200. I don't know what so then I have another one in Comal County. I got to wait for that one to come out to see if that one went down. And then I have 2 in Dripping Springs now. So I'm curious to see what happens with those. But if taxes actually drop for most homes, that's actually like, here's a problem. Everybody talks about affordability in Austin, and the way to get affordability is to tax the shit out of everybody else, and then that'll give affordability. But it makes it a lot harder for people to actually own a home. The reason why they're taxing the shit out of everybody is so that they can actually like do more multifamily and get more parcels that they can make more money on, right? So if you put one home here, you're only going to make X amount. But if you put 10 homes here, you can actually make more. And a lot of that's for rentals, because now like when they tax commercials tax completely different, right? So that's what the city wants. They want to go after and get more commercial. That way they can have more tax dollars. But when you lower the taxes on these homes, like they did, like on my investment home, that's $200. Now that's only $200 over the year, but that's still like $10 a month, $15 a month extra that I'm going to have in my pocket versus not. And so, but like on my primary residence, should be even lower. So that actually makes it more affordable for most home buyers buying right now.
So there's a couple things there. Because it's a static number, the lower priced home gets the greater benefit of the tax reduction. So that's the first thing. So yes, it does help with affordability. What do you think happens when more people can afford homes in an area?
More people are going to buy, for sure.
That's it, right? So while it does improve affordability, all that does is accelerate the amount of purchases and the amount of investments.
Yeah. I mean, it makes it more affordable this year for people and next year for people, but 2025, it may not be as affordable. So short term, definitely gonna have a little bit more. So let's see what's going on in the comments here. Yeah, Brandon, thank you. Dollar cost average for homes. Yeah, I agree. Aaron says, moving. Oh, my name. Yeah. How long does it take for tax percentage to go down in a neighborhood? That's an interesting question, because the way the tax going down is as home values go up, they will decrease every year. So here's an example. So let's say the county is going to they need from every home at $10,000 this year. Well, and so if they tax your home at $550 this year, they're going to far exceed that $10,000. So now they got to drop the tax down a little bit, the tax rate down a little bit, so they can meet that 10,000 mark without overtaxing. So that's one leverage. So you may not see, so let's say that home values don't go up, you may not see that rate go down at all. It may stay flat. So every year they're reassessing the tax value so they know how much to actually take in.
So that's one half of it. The other half is if it's specifically a new neighborhood, oftentimes the neighborhood, they're buying improvements. They're borrowing money for these improvements. And so as you're paying this bond down to the city, then it's lowering your taxable rate for that phase of the neighborhood. So if you buy in a neighborhood and let's say the tax rate is 3%, I'm just going to use 3%. The following year, it might be 2.9 in that phase of the neighborhood. The year after that, it might be 2.8. And so while your total tax rate is going down, the only part that's actually going down is the part that's part of that development cost. So the mud or the PID or the
the PID probably won't go down, but everything else will potentially, those tax rates will come down. It'll reduce your overall tax rate, but the tax that you're paying for those things will stay the same. If not, I mean, I don't think they usually will go up for the mud, but the mud, because that mud or PID, because the PID gets paid off, right? So
the PID gets paid off. So that one reduces.
Yeah, mud. So it's a municipality. I always used to call it mandatory. Yeah. I used to call it mandatory. People are like, it's not mandatory, it's municipality. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's still mandatory.
But have you seen a mud? Could it decrease with volume? Right. So if you add more people onto this mud, could the price decrease? This is a question. I actually don't know the answer.
Yeah, I don't fully understand how to respond to that, because
I'm with you, man. Well, because I'm thinking about like the Wilco mud, right? The Brushy Creek mud, right? Like they've been adding people forever. It's not very high. It's not a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just had clients that bought in Brushy Creek. So see, that's stuff that they make purposely hard to understand. But to my knowledge, you don't have one home and they pay $30,000 a year for the mud, and now they have two homes and now it's $15,000 a year. I think they have it priced in, and there's a break point probably where then they reduce overall, because if every single person's paying $250 and now you're far exceeding what the actual mud costs. So I think there's probably a break point where it actually reduces. I just don't know what that is. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's good.
So, all right. What else have we got in the comment section? Did Brett fall asleep? I haven't seen him. He was in Hawaii, so he's probably sleeping on the couch. Dude, I got some fun clients coming in soon, man. It's been really fun the last couple weeks. I have one that we wrote we wrote an offer. I want to say is the house is listed at 495. We wrote an offer for 435 cash, and they pretty much told us to pound sand. And I was like, yeah, this thing is gonna sit. And I turned around, it was under contract. I'm like, what the heck's happening?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what the heck's happening?
That's
Yeah.
the worst.
I mean, the agent legitimately is like, I thought this was a fake offer. I'm like, no, it's real offer. I gave you proof of funds. A fake offer would not have proof of funds. So
Oh yeah, I just had one where they came in on one of my listings and they said, "Can you check if your sellers would take this?" And it was like absurd. It was like 300,000 less, right? So this is a 700 something $1,000 listing. They offered 300,000 less, and I
yeah.
said, "You haven't given me anything. Like you just
Yeah.
said some words. You just went like this." And so,
Yeah.
sure enough, he didn't come back with anything, not tangible anyway.
Yeah. I just
So I'm
listed
not going
one
to waste anybody's time and talk about something that you might think you want to do.
right. I just had one that came in at 400, and I was like, or it was listed at 400. They gave me just a verbal offer. Like, here's what we would do hypothetically if your client would do it. I'm like, okay, well, that's not really an offer, just like how you did. I'm like, I will talk with my client, obviously, because we want to move this house. And my client basically would do the same thing, like, no, I'm good. So we'll see what happens with that one. Save the biosphere. I like how you guys break apart subsets of the market. What do you see what do you see recently coming for homes in the $2 million ish price range? As far as like price reductions, I think here's what's interesting. And you tell me if I'm wrong, Ian, but there's a subset of people like, so I have this client, we'll just say he's very close to hanging a B next to his name. And so very wealthy client. And we're looking at properties and, we're talking about prices, and obviously people that buy homes in the 10, 15, $20 million price range, they're not going to pay 50. So price tag on a house is 25 million. They're not just going to go, okay, 25 million. Here you go. They're going to go, oh, I'm going to write an offer at 19 million. Right. For them, a lot of them is, I want to get a deal. I want to feel like I got a deal. I want to feel like I got, which I would too, right? I don't want to pay 25 million when I could pay 21 million. I probably would, right? If I had 21 million to do that. So for them, it's a lot of the game, but we were asking them, we're looking at homes in this particular client in the 5 to 6 million range. And we were talking with the other agent. He basically goes, yeah, he's like, people with money don't really care about interest rates. So we don't really give a shit about what you guys are talking about with interest rates. And we're both like, fair enough. So that was a larger point going to my $2 million point. I think there's a decent amount of inventory in that price point, which we're seeing reductions in prices, but not as much as you would anticipate, right? So in that example, I went from 25 million to 19 is what people were offering. I'm seeing like $2 million. People were offering like 1.8, right? And they're getting under contract 1.85, 1.9. So you're seeing $100,000 movement, but most people that have a $2 million, $3 million home typically are going to be those people that have equity, right? They put in 25% unless they put in a ton of money remodeling. But like I've seen clients, they'll buy a $1 million home, put 300,000 into it and then list it for 2 million. Right. So, I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, you see that you play in that ball game too.
Yeah, I think it's so like I'll just talk specifically to that land client that's his budget's like 8, right? And he has a number and there's an offer number, and then he has a number that he's thinking, and the number that he's thinking is always 10 to 15% less starting. That's just how it is. And interest rate, I don't think that ever entered his mind, but he still wants it to be as low as possible. Could he pay it off? He can pay cash. It's not about that. It's about getting the deal done, feeling that he has a little bit of an edge, and getting what he wants. At the end of the day, he wants to get what he wants for what he wants to pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, I find typically people that are paying, those prices aren't dumb either, right? I'm not saying that people are dumb,
very,
but they got there for a reason. So typically, their math is, okay, I have this, I can do this. This is the most I'm gonna do. And those are the same people that I'll see go, like for an example, There's one we looked at, it was at 5 million. He's like, this is 3.9 tops. And they're probably into it for probably the people that own it, probably into it for 3.9. But he's like, yeah, I don't need it. And so I think that's the same mentality we see. That's the same mentality we see with a lot of buyers just in general right now. Like, all right, this house is at 550. If I can't get it for 490, I'm done.
That's actually probably the biggest nugget right there is that there are a subset of buyers, and sellers don't get this. There are a subset of buyers that don't need your home. And so even though you're getting an offer and you feel like it's a little lower than you want to make, or that you thought you'd make a year ago,
yeah,
they didn't need it to begin with. This is just a good opportunity for them and a way to help you.
You actually brought up something that I forgot to talk about, and I thought we talked about it, but I talked about it on the hot sheet I was on the hot sheet last week, about 3 days. So one of the things that I talked about on the hot sheet for Broke Agent Media was the fact that the average for cancellations was 16% nationwide, but Austin was about 14%. So what you said makes sense. If people put an offer on a property and they sit back and go, seller's not really working with me on this or that, I'll just back out and find another property. So there is that kind of mentality as well, right? Where, 14% of the Austin market, people are just backing out of contracts. So, I mean, that's 1.5 out of 10.
I'm also going to make another politically correct statement. There's also a subset of buyers in the Austin market that will always do that anyway. Often do that anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know a lot of investors are like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly that.
Yeah. Cool, man. We've been doing this for, on my side, 59 minutes for the audience.
Oh yeah.
57.
And 25 seconds. It doesn't seem like that. This is good.
Yeah. It goes by so fast, especially when we haven't done this in 2 weeks. So I appreciate everybody. Ian, any last shout outs?
Yeah, man. I think, we're out next week because we're in San Antonio for a thing.
We're in San Antonio.
I see your eyes. Yeah, we're in San Antonio for a thing. So apologies for everybody. We won't be on next week. But
is that the holiday party?
Well, I wasn't gonna say what it was, but yeah.
The real broker holiday party, man.
That's true. So yeah, we'll be in San Antonio. But it's so interesting because Jeremy and I, we go to all these different places. We meet with all these different realtors and we have all these different discussions, and it's so fun and always sometimes it's alarming to hear the perspectives in all these different areas. You can tell instantly whether an agent knows what the heck they're talking about or not. And so I love the perspective that a lot of these people are giving. So that's why we love going to all these places. So we will be out next week, but we'll see you. We'll come back with some more information.
And if you have a realtor friend that is struggling or thinking of leaving the industry, tell them to give us a call and we'll talk with them a little bit about what we're doing at Real Broker. There's a lot of interesting things happening over here. We got a lot of really great agents moving over here because we offer a lot. Look, what I saw a stat was 100,000 agents had left the market this year already. So there's a lot of realtors leaving. There are opportunities out there. Have them give us a call because Ian and I have been bringing agents over that were struggling, helping them with some of their marketing, getting them going on the right track. And now they're successful agents. So somebody asked leprosy. No, not leprosy. So I wanted to bring this up earlier. So I had strep throat, if you remember, and then I thought I had a reaction to amoxicillin. I actually ended up getting gut-tight psoriasis. And so now, I have zero medication for this, and it's just wildly getting out of control. So GT1000, appreciate you. Or T1000, thank you. Appreciate y'all. We'll see you. We'll maybe do Tuesday or Thursday. Drop in the comment if we should do Tuesday or Thursday. We'll see you.